Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we've been highlighting the importance of domestic abuse awareness. The group Leadership Fresno is dedicating their project to that, and a local congressman is lending his support. So we now welcome to our studio Congressman Jim Costa. Jim, great to have you. As always, we talk a lot on many issues.
Right.
And now we're kind of switching gears.
Thank you.
Thank you. And let's talk a little bit about this new project, Victims' Rights Caucus. What is this?
Well, when I first came to Congress, a group of us put together a bipartisan Victims' Rights Caucus for victims of crime and their families. It knows no boundaries. Clearly, we all know someone or a family member that's been a victim of crime. And the fact is that in 1981, Congress set aside a means to provide funding, and President Reagan signed it into law, that takes not taxpayer dollars, but restitution funds from ill-gotten gains from criminals that have been convicted. And these funds are used to help organizations like the Marshall Mason Center, hotline centers, all sorts of ways across the country. And it really adds into the hundreds of millions of dollars every year.
That's great. It's almost like we're taking from those criminals and helping victims with the money that they illegally stole. Tell us, you're also through this advocating for some legislation, right? Tell us a little bit about that act.
We do three things, basically. We protect the funding, and we've expanded it every year because I don't want to say crime pays, but there's a lot of criminal activity, and so the Crime Victims Fund grows, and there's a lot of need out there. In addition to that, we advocate on behalf of legislation. 2 weeks ago, we passed the Violence Against Women's Act out of the House. The Crime Victims Caucus is a prime supporter of that legislation. There are other legislation that we have endorsed and supported. And then finally, every year we provide recognition to organizations like the intervention efforts by Costa in Merced County and Madera, individuals who have done things to really support crime victims and their families. And so those awards are presented every year. Last year, Arian Pauls, who was involved in breaking the chains here, she was awarded for her efforts. So those are the kinds of things we do.
And is this a picture? I think we popped up a picture. Is that from that award there?
That was when we provided the award to Arian and to some of the other deserving individuals and organizations across the country for the good work they do.
Fantastic. And there's also, I mean, other local efforts that this supports, right? Like domestic violence centers, which we just talked about in our last segment. We have Marjorie Mason Center and Rape Crisis Center. Both of those would be supported through this?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
So it's important because, again, victims of crime and their families know no boundaries, and we must do our part to reach out and support them in those organizations that are there always.
Talk a little bit too, I read, you're also working to reintroduce Jane's Law. I had not heard of this. For others who maybe haven't, what is Jane's Law?
Well, it basically, in effect, makes it illegal for someone to go across state lines after and not returning property after a divorce. And oftentimes there are, various court orders that are involved with these people who, I mean, we know a lot of spousal abuse takes place.
Sure.
And people cross state lines, and this is an effort to try to protect them from continuing to be a victim.
And I think we have some pictures too. I want to go through these. We showed that first one. I believe we have some other pictures. We'll pop these up on the screen. Check this out. Tell us a little bit about this awards. It looks like another award ceremony here.
Right. Last year we had a workshop at Fresno State.
Fantastic.
And brought all the organizations together, and we had speakers that are really in our own valley stepping up and reaching out in so many ways. And we talked about how they could network with one another, with the various organizations here and nationwide. We had people from Sacramento that were here that are part of this support system. And it's a continuing effort because we have so many hardworking people that clearly have dedicated their lives to reaching out. And oftentimes you find, whether it's Arian or other people who have been a victim of crime, decide to, once they get past that survivor mode, to decide that they're going to make a difference because they know what it's like to feel as a victim.
Sure.
And so we think it's very important, and we want to support and reward those efforts because when that happens to you or to a family member, you want to know that there's someone you can reach out to get that support.
And what does this mean? We talked a lot about different funding. People see that in the community, right? Directly impacting their community. How have you seen that already?
Well, I've seen it in so many different ways. When we first organized the Crime Victims Caucus over 10 years ago, we were every year appropriating about $400 million across the country. We've now expanded it to almost $900 million.
Oh my.
I mean, again, I don't want to say crime pays, but there are literally billions of dollars that are confiscated as a result of convicting these criminals, whether they be for white-collar crimes or whether it be for trafficking drugs or people. The confiscation of not only the cash, but oftentimes there are airplanes or boats or those kinds of things involved.
Which is hard to fathom, but that's real crime.
That's real crime.
Yeah.
And so, again, these are not taxpayer dollars. It's important to note that. And we think it makes sense, and that's why it has strong bipartisan support. And we just want to continue to provide those dollars where they're most needed.
Perfect, Congressman. Thank you so much. This is amazing to hear about these efforts and kind of see this in action. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
As always, and nice to chat with you on CBT.
Absolutely.
Congressman,
Very good. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And still to come, why the